Named Wayne, Nebraska, northeast corner of Nebraska. My family had 50 head of cows. I grew up in the 80s there, graduated from high school in 91. As many of you in agriculture, the 80s were very tough on farmers. We struggled. We saved 20 head of cows, and with those 20 head of cows, I raised what I showed in 4-H. And my entire 4-H career, they had a spot saved for me at the bottom of the class. I picked my best calf, but they weren't very good. And I didn't know come here from Sikkim on how to clip and fit one. But until I was a senior in high school, I would just break my calves, take them, stand last in class. That's what I'd do. One day, I thought I had a pretty good one. I think I was third to last that year at the county fair. So I thought it was pretty good. So I took that calf. The Simmental Regional was in Beatrice, Nebraska that year, and I took that calf. I knew I wouldn't do very good, but it was the only chance I was going to be able to go to a national type of show, and so I hooked up my rusty old Bumper Beach trailer, and I went to that Simmental Regional with my calf. And I got there, set up my stalls, and the next afternoon I was sitting there clipping on my calf. Like I say, I didn't know come here from Sikkim how to clip one, present one, didn't have any idea, nobody had ever showed me. And I was hacking away on this effort and just making marks and she was clipped worse than anyone in here. Gentleman come by, this guy's a big deal. And he worked for the best. He had a string of 10 head of cattle there, and they were first through 10 in the show, in the overall deal. He worked for a gentleman by the name of Johnny Hook. He was the sharpest man in the industry. And he also worked for a man in the steer deal called Dwayne Hilbert. He was the sharpest man in the steer industry at the time. And he came by and stared at me, and I thought he was making fun of me. I'll be honest with you. I thought, I was trying to, he was watching me, and I was like, trying real hard. I just kept making her even worse, doing a worse job. And he come up to me and he says, "You want me to show you how to do that?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I don't know how to do it. I sure appreciate it." So he took the clippers out of my hand, and he proceeded to give me 4 hours out of his life to tell me how to do that. And we talked about it, and he had 10 head to fit the next day. And he came over during the show, helped me dress my animal, and he talked to me about my heifer. That thing was terrible. She was not a very good animal, but he talked to me about how we were going to fit her, what we were going to do to fix her, to make her do the best of her abilities. And he taught me a lot that day, those 2 days. We ended up fitting that animal. They picked the top 40 of those Simmental Regionals. She was up 18th. Best I'd ever done to date. And from that day on, I got better and better. The show I went to, that gentleman came up to me and told me things I was doing better. He told me things I was doing worse. Never told me I did perfect. He said there was always room for improvement. And if that guy hadn't done, up until that point, the summer I worked at the factory in Wayne, Nebraska, great meat manufacturing. Not saying anything bad about it, but it wasn't what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to do this right here. And that guy gave me 4 hours of his life. And it changed me. Without that gentleman's 4 hours, I would not be standing in front of you today. And that gentleman's name was our announcer's son, Scott Hester. Let's give that gentleman a round of applause.
Thank you very much, Corey. Corey came here the other day to start the show. They introduced me to him. And he said, "Would you be any relation to Scott Hester?" And I said, "Well, yeah, he was my son." And that's the first time the 2 of us have met. And so he said, "I got a story I want to tell about your son." And that's what he just did. And he loved the cattle showing business. That's all he might as well just say that's all he ever knew. That's what he did. I never know where he was at. He'd be calling from Denver or Fort Worth or wherever. And all the time he was doing that. And he died here at the Clay County Fair last year. And as most of you know. And I think that's where he wanted to die. He came here. He came here and he stayed with us for 3 nights. And he showed cattle here on Monday. And he fit 2 heifers that won the show on Monday. And the next morning he was gone. That's how quick it was. And so with that, I just And he just loved the Clay County Fair. You know, no matter if he was living in Texas or whatever, he tried to get back to the Clay County Fair. Sometimes he did a little illegally maybe, but he got here. And so, anyways, he loved the fair, he loved every part of it. Counting, he first started showing here in I looked that up last night, I don't know if I remember for sure, but he started showing here in about 1970. And anyway, I figured out he was 42 years here at the Clay County Fair. 42 years when he was here. And so, with that, I know we're going to have a Centennial Fair coming up here. So in his memory, I'm contributing $5,000 to start off the fund drive for the